Ben Franklin once said that there are only two certainties, death and taxes, but I think he missed one, that outdoor finishes will always fail.
That is not the real Ben Franklin.
While a lot of people think that the real enemy outside comes from, rain, water exposure, humidity, high heat, things like that, but the reality is it's the UV that's the big problem. No matter what finish you put on an outdoor piece, the sun will beat down on it and slowly degrade the finish until you're left with nothing. It either cracks and peels or starts to get to the point where it can penetrate into the wood. And now at that point, once the finish fails, you're now left with the wood's natural ability to resist the weather. When it comes to finish, that's the other thing. Some are better than others. You have finishes that have a lot of pigment and UV blockers. Those are very good. But as woodworkers, a lot of times we want to see the wood grain. So painting a project, while maybe one of the best outdoor finishes out there, may not be in the cards for us. We want something clear or something that allows you to continue to see the wood grain. And that means generally something that requires a little bit more maintenance. Now, the table I'm sitting on here is an outdoor coffee table that I made a few years ago. It is also a table that came from a larger table that I had some finish failures. It's just an interesting story, and it's something that I like to experiment with. I tend to consider my furniture sacrificial, for lack of a better word. I like to experiment on it so that I can have some information to give back to you guys. Now, this one has been doing quite well. I'm going to give you the whole history on it, show you what I used, what's working, what's not working, and then how I'm going to fix it, well, or at least try to fix it at this point. So this table is made from Western red cedar, generally known to be an outdoor friendly wood. It does have rot resistance. The one thing I don't like about it is it is incredibly soft. You just look at it and it will dent. But for an outdoor piece, not a huge deal. When I first made it, if I remember correctly, the finish I used was Osmo's One Coat HS Plus. This is a heavily pigmented product that you brush on, and you can see on the base here, that's actually what that finish is. And it's held up pretty well. That One Coat HS stuff, I actually think it's pretty good. The problem I had with it is I didn't like it in terms of the look. I didn't love that color. It just looked like a diluted paint to me. But again, let's go back to what I said before. If you use something with pigment, that's going to offer the most protection. The clear coat finishes, those are a little bit harder to resist the sun and they tend to break down more. So this actually has held up. I put it on the top. It didn't hold up as well there because this is also a horizontal surface, so it broke down a little bit faster. And instead of applying the same finish, I just kind of sanded the top back to bare wood. And then I tried another Osmo product, which is their UV protection oil. Now, admittedly, if you read the instructions, UV protection oil is not intended for horizontal surfaces, only vertical. And that means things like millwork, probably even a ceiling on a patio, walls, things like that. Basically where you don't have a flat surface under the sun where liquids and water and snow and things can just kind of pool and sit on the surface. It's not really intended for that, but I did it anyway because I wanted to see what would happen. A year later, this is what I have. It used to look nice and, again, it's a clear oil, and it used to have that Western red cedar appearance, which I think is a fairly nice color. But over time, just 1 year, you could see it's grayed quite a bit. There's really no discernible finish on the surface. Definitely ready for a recoat, possibly a light sanding, but I don't like the gray weathered look. So I'm going to sand this back, and this time I'm going to sand the whole thing. I'm going to sand the legs. I'm going to get it all down to bare wood so that I can actually use a completely new product that just came on the market. I do want to be very specific about this. I paid for the product. This is not an ad. I have no association with them whatsoever. Here it is. It's Rubio's new Durogrit. We'll get into some of the details about what makes this stuff so special later, but for now, let's clean up the old table. So strategy here, scrape as much as I can, sand what I can't scrape, use the sanding to smooth everything out. The underside I'm not as worried about. I will hit that with some sanding, but it won't look perfect. It doesn't have to look perfect. It's on the underside and this thing is outside. All right, so let's talk for a second about this stuff. The flavor that I got is Foxy Brown. So I'm a foxy guy. But the company recommends you go with a color pretty close to the natural color of the wood itself. And I guess this is because if you happen to have a scratch or something like that and it reveals a little bit of the color underneath, it won't be that drastic. So you want to get pretty close. There's a whole set of rules apparently for which color you pick. But Foxy Brown is what we're going with here. So what makes this stuff a little bit different? Well, the thing that caught my attention is that it is wood fiber fortified. I don't know exactly how that process works, but the bottom line, as I understand it, is there are wood fibers in this mix, probably in addition to pigments, as part of the UV blocking formula. That's super interesting. I don't know how well it works. I don't know if it's all BS or what the deal is, but it looked compelling to me. This is also a water-soluble oil. The way to explain this, I guess, would be like salad dressing, right? Where you mix water and oil together, you emulsify it. Usually with salad dressing, we might use something like egg yolks or mustard as an emulsifying agent, mix it together, and it kind of stays stable, even though it's got a oil component and a water component. So similar thing happening here, which means you can dilute this a little bit with water if you need to. And I'm assuming it's going to be water cleanup when it's all said and done here. Bottom line is once the water evaporates, you're left with the oil. So it is still, hey dude, what's happening? It is still a oil-based finish. It's just a water-soluble oil. So interesting stuff there. I will be wearing a respirator's first time using this stuff. It is 0 VOC, but even with the regular Rubio products, I still like to wear a respirator. I generally don't like how they smell. I actually will start this without one just because I want to smell it to know what it smells like, and then probably put one on just in case. But I got plenty of air in this area here. So let's crack this guy open, see what's going on in there, give it a good mix. Probably going to start with the underside, the parts that we aren't going to be able to see, and then flip it over and we'll do the top section last. Now I just want to cut in here real quick to let you guys know how important it is that you subscribe to this channel. On some of our videos, as many as 40% of you watch but aren't subscribed. Subscribing and clicking the notification bell not only ensures that you don't miss out on any of our videos, but also gives you the warm and fuzzies, knowing that it really helps us out as we provide you with great woodworking content and dad jokes. It's interesting. Very similar in color to the Osmo One Coat HS that I used before, and I didn't love that color. Okay, initial whiff, smells like latex paint. Kinda has a little bit of that consistency as well. Very painty. All right, give it a good mix. All right, let's see how it goes. Working on the underside is nice because it gives us an opportunity to get to know the product. See what it looks like, how it behaves, and hopefully by the time we do the show surface, we'll be happy with what we see. All right, it definitely applies like thin paint. In terms of the wood fiber fortification, it must really grind down those fibers, turn it into a powder or something in order for this to kind of have the smoothness that it has. I don't know if I expected to actually see like little bits of wood in there or not, but maybe I was just kind of hoping it would. Unlike a lot of Rubio products, this is not to be applied and then wiped off. You are applying a coat and you're leaving it on there. So it's definitely going to be something where you want to go with the grain on your final pass, and you want to make sure what you're leaving is a nice even coat. Because I'm assuming it'll be pretty obvious if you don't. You might be wondering about the cracks in between here. After my first application years ago, I put a lot of finish in there, and I don't feel the need to sand and remove that finish. I just kind of let it be what it's going to be. You can't see it, and if the brush gets down in there, we get some finish in there, no big deal. Just kind of roll it like that. But I'm not going to like really go out of my way to finish that. This center divider here got the most sanding of anything on the underside. This is going to definitely give us the most true kind of idea of what this color is like. And I actually like it. I like it better than the One Coat HS color. This definitely has more red in it. And once it hits that Western red cedar, at least to my eye, that looks like a really good choice. And I'll tell you, regarding the respirator, I don't really get the sense like that I would need to wear one here with good ventilation. This kind of gives me the feeling of like when I'm painting a room in the house, as long as I've got couple windows open and I feel like we're getting a lot of fresh air exchange. Don't necessarily feel compelled to wear that kind of protection at home when I'm painting. So at least if my nose knows and is telling me the story correctly, the stuff is pretty inoffensive. That said, confined spaces, you don't have a lot of air circulation. There aren't many finishes out there other than maybe like a pure oil that I wouldn't recommend wearing some kind of protection, but I tend to be a little bit paranoid about this crap. Now, as you can see, I am putting finish on top of the previous finish just because I didn't sand this underside very well. This is the kind of finish that I believe wants to bond to raw wood, or if you are refinishing this piece in the future, they say you don't even have to sand. You could just reapply it over top of itself. But I get the feeling that if you have some kind of a heavy finish on there, you've sealed the wood, this is not the kind of finish you want to put on top of that. So on the underside, I don't mind, because this is going to get the least amount of abuse out of any part of this table. But it'll be a nice experiment, see over time if we have any issues with adhesion or anything weird going on in those areas with the old finish. Now this stuff does take, they say 3 hours to dry, and I might normally give it that opportunity before handling it, but I need to get things done. So now let's work on that top. And what's interesting is I used Rubio's hybrid wood protector, which I believe is their outdoor formula that's, kind of like the clear version of their interior product, just for outside. Did not love it. I found that the odor was horrendous. Was very, very strong. Had kind of like, the feeling you get when you're cutting onions, the kind of sensation. And I found that it wasn't real effective either, at least in my limited experiments with it. So I never went back to that product. Once again, I just do not have as much luck with clear products as I do with pigmented products. And of course, on this particular top, we've got a lot of grain direction battles going on and grain changes. So I'm just going to try to work quickly so that I could go back and give some of these pass in the correct direction after the finish is spread. All right, so no doubt, working as fast as I am, we're gonna have smudges of finish going down into the slats. And we'll worry about that after the fact. And I'm digging this color. What do you think? Foxy brown. Seems like a pretty good match for Western red cedar. Wasn't Foxy Brown a character in Austin Powers?
It's me, Foxy. Foxy Cleopatra.
All right, so now I'm gonna grab these edges, which also tends to kind of spooge the material up to the top, so I want to get those first before doing my final passes up there. Okay, and now I'm just gonna come back along this piece. Just do a couple of smooth passes, smooth strokes, and hopefully get good coverage in the correct grain direction. Now this middle area has already started to dry, and I do believe I remember reading that you can add just a little bit of extra finish on top of that and just kind of blend it in, and that should allow you to sort of reactivate what's on the surface, leaving your brush strokes in the correct direction, because that won't look too good if this middle isn't correct. Bueno. I'm gonna give that 3 hours to dry, but it's kind of the end of the day now. I think I'll be giving it overnight. Well, my friends, sometimes you outsmart the fox and sometimes the fox outsmarts you. In this case, I think the Fox one is a little more foxy than I was expecting. It's a very orange color. I mean, if you look at the color, it actually is pretty close to the color of a fox. And I don't know what I expected, but it is true to what the name says. So this is 100% an issue with me not testing a color. The reason I did that is because I don't really care that much. This is going on my patio. I'm not that fussed about it. I wouldn't want this in my house, but if it was a piece for inside my house, I would have been a lot more careful, and I probably would have bought a couple other samples to see which color works best for me. In this case, I do think this is a good match for Western red cedar, because Western red cedar generally is going to be in that brownish reddish family once finished. So it's not terrible, but we'll see how it holds up over time. Maybe the color will change a little bit. Maybe it'll mellow out, or outside, who knows? Maybe it's going to look great on my patio as a splash of color. You know, we'll see. But that doesn't reflect on the finish itself. The finish itself is something that I wish I could give you an answer to right now, but ultimately that's going to come with time. I could do a whole bunch of stupid tests and pour water on it and show you that it's hydrophobic and the water pours off. I mean, you could do that with any oil on the surface. That wouldn't impress me. What's going to impress me is 6 months from now, we'll check in. A year from now, we'll check in. And then we'll see at what point, because I think they say about 2 years is what they anticipate before you would need to do any kind of treatment on this. We'll see what happens. So I'll check back in with you guys and keep you updated. All my outdoor projects, you guys know this, I've done videos on this. It's all a test for me. It's all just one long-term experiment where I tell you what I see, show you what results I have with the finishes I use, and hopefully it helps you make better decisions on your outdoor furniture, because it's not easy and most of it will fail. It's just a matter of when, right? Not totally unhappy, just don't completely love the color. You know, I'm gonna act like I like it and see what Nicole thinks. Maybe she'll be like, oh, it's so beautiful, and everything will be great.
It's fine.
It's okay?
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you for following along with me on this one. And like I said, I'll keep you guys updated. I'll see you next time. What's up, Oreo? What's up? Actually, I think Ben Franklin said death, taxes, and Oreo. The only certainties. Hello. Boop. Hey. Hey. Sexy. You're gonna need to move, dude. Yeah, can't have paw prints on this thing. Well, my friends, sometimes you try that again.